My name is Emma Lewis. I was 28 when I realized that no matter how hard I worked, some people would never notice. I had been at 𝗨𝗏𝗆 Solutions for nearly 5 years, working as a business analyst. I loved my job. I loved solving problems, and I loved learning new things. But mostly, I loved seeing results that no one seemed to care about. I stayed late, worked weekends without complaint, solved problems no one else wanted to touch, and helped train new employees. I did all this quietly, hoping that one day someone would finally notice my effort. My manager, David Carter, was the type of person who loved to talk about leadership but avoided responsibility. He loved meetings and presentations, but never the work behind them. In every board meeting or client call, he stood confidently in front, taking credit for work I had done. He would say, "My team delivered exceptional results," while I sat quietly in the corner, my notes perfectly organized, my presentations polished, my ideas prepared, and no one aware that I had done almost everything. Whenever I tried to answer questions or explain a point, he would cut me off with a smile that meant, "Not your place." I learned quickly that visibility didn't matter here. Only the person with the loudest voice did. During my first 2 years, I was careful. I kept my head down, focused on my work, and tried not to show frustration. I wanted to grow, but the constant credit stealing and dismissive comments started to wear me down. One day, after presenting a detailed report that took weeks to prepare, David took it to a client meeting and presented it as our team's work. The client even complimented him directly, and I smiled politely, feeling my pride twist quietly inside me. Later, he told me, "Emma, you're doing great, but try not to overstep." I began to notice patterns. Claire, a colleague who had joined less than a year ago, seemed to get opportunities I had been waiting for years. She was charismatic and knew how to smile at the right time, how to nod when David spoke. It became clear to me it wasn't just about doing the work. It was about being seen in the right way. By my 3rd year, I was exhausted but still committed. I worked on one of our largest projects yet, a client who had been losing millions and needed a turnaround plan. David took the lead publicly, but quietly handed everything to me. I coordinated the team, analyzed data, created detailed presentations, prepared scripts for client meetings, and solved every problem no one else wanted to touch. I barely slept. Sometimes I even stayed at the office overnight, just to make sure everything was perfect. When the client finally praised the work, David went to the board and presented the plan as his own. I was sitting right there, and he didn't even mention my name. I felt a mix of anger and disbelief, but said nothing. I had learned early on that speaking up would only get me silenced. Then came the promotion cycle. I thought, finally, my hard work would pay off. I had led major projects, fixed critical problems, and contributed more than anyone else. I waited for the announcement, heart pounding, confident that this time it would be my turn. Then David announced Claire's promotion. I couldn't believe it. Claire had been with the company for less than a year. My heart sank, and I left the office that day silently crying in my car before driving home. A week later, an email landed in my inbox by mistake. It was an internal HR evaluation under my name. In cold, clear words, it said, "Hardworking but replaceable." Replaceable. 7 years of late nights, effort, and dedication, reduced to a single word. I stared at the screen for hours, feeling the emptiness grow inside me. That night, I decided I would stop trying to prove myself to people who didn't see my worth. I would focus on myself and my growth. I started small. I stopped volunteering for extra work that only made me more invisible. I stopped staying late just to cover for David's mistakes. I began investing in myself. I earned certifications, polished my leadership and communication skills. and quietly documented every single contribution I made at work. Every project, every spreadsheet, every presentation, every client call, everything was recorded. I knew one day it would matter. Months went by, and I focused on building my skills and my confidence. I practiced presenting ideas, leading meetings, negotiating solutions, and building influence subtly. I learned to speak with authority without raising my voice, and to be seen without asking for permission. Slowly, I could feel the change inside me. I was no longer just the girl in the corner. I was becoming someone who could lead. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. Novatech Inc., one of Brightwave's major clients, reached out to me directly. They had been working on a project I had essentially run on my own. They said they knew who actually delivered the results, and they wanted me on their team. They offered me a role as Director of Strategy, with a salary double what I had been making, and equity in the company. I accepted immediately. When I handed in my resignation, David laughed. He said, "You'll struggle out there. The market is tough." I smiled politely. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just walked away, knowing that my work and reputation would speak for me. 3 months later, Brightwave lost their biggest client, the one I had handled flawlessly. Projects started failing, deadlines were missed, clients complained, and the board realized the truth. I had been the backbone, and David was just the face. He was demoted shortly after. Meanwhile, I thrived at Novatech. My ideas were heard, my work was recognized, and my name carried weight and respect. I didn't have to fight anyone or seek revenge. I had simply focused on myself, and the results spoke louder than anything else. Looking back, those years of being overlooked and underestimated were some of the hardest of my life. But they taught me patience, perseverance, and the value of self-belief. By the time I stood at my first industry conference as a director, receiving recognition for the work I had done, I realized that the strongest people are often the quietest. People may underestimate you. They may call you replaceable. But if you continue to grow and focus on yourself, the right opportunities will find you, and success will speak for itself.